Lizette, I was about to join you on that dance floor. I looked on your website in preparation to come to think about this gathering, this group of women gathering that hasn't gathered for 25 years, and to think about the impact of that and what that really meant. And before I talk about the economy, I want to just talk a little bit about race, gender, culture, and the third burden of women of color. I mean, oftentimes we talk about race and gender and intersectionality, and I think it's important to do that. But for African American women in particular, I think for Latino women increasingly, and for other women of color, the way that a racist society treats the men of our race becomes an additional burden to those women. There are 1 million more African American women who work than African American men. Some would say what's wrong with the men, we ought to say what's wrong with the economy. But that third burden is not just about the issue of working, it's how someone's frustrations play on the quality of lives. So I would posit that when you went back and looked at some of the data that you gathered in 2005 about the frustrations that some of the women of color in ministry had, that if you were able to put in variables that talked about family formation and other issues, that you might find that more of the women in ministry may be single or childless, and that they've made sacrifices to follow their muse. And I think that these are important things for us to deal with, even as we deal with those other things. It's because we can get ourselves, and I say this as the president of a women's college, certainly women's issues are at the top of my list, but there is an intertwining. In the African American community in particular, there are so many young women who hunger for connection and make mistakes because they feel that they must immediately find a man. And so at 21 or 22, I speak to young women who are thinking of leaving school because they've met somebody. And I'm like, you'll meet another one. You know. I mean, with all due respect to my brothers here, men come, men go.